right. What's cracking? What's popping? What's shaking, everybody? Happy Friday. It is another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe. What up, Grace? How's it going?
What's up, Chill? Hope everyone had an amazing Valentine's Day. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Um, Aside from Valentine's Day, because I'm not trying to get all lovey-dovey here.
Let's
Let's
get lovey dovey.
we're more so gonna talk about two things today, everybody. We're gonna chat about the Peacemaker episodes 6 through 8 and the Super Bowl commercial breakdown of Doctor Strange. I know there was a trailer for Moon Knight, but I think I want to save that for another day if that's cool. Is that cool with you, Grace?
That is totally cool. Yes.
Great. Just simply because Doctor Strange had so much. And
Overwhelming.
later, either if we start off with Doctor Strange or end with Doctor Strange, we're going to bring up the image that I posted on Instagram. So, we as a unit, Grace and I, couldn't decide on what topic is going to go first. So, I'm going to actually let Siri decide, okay? So,
Yay! This is fun. Okay.
so it's gonna be a virtual coin toss, heads or tails. Heads is Peacemaker. Tails is the Multiverse of Madness trailer. So, Siri, heads or tails? Heads. Okay, she said heads. Saying, yep.
Peacemaker.
So we're
All
talking
right, let's
about
go.
Peacemaker. All right. So, say when it comes down to hold it. Gotta do my transitions, get my transitions a little bit more cleaner. Let's talk about the Peacemaker, okay? Because say when it came down to where we left off, I think episode 5 ended up with Autobio. She found out that Mern is a butterfly. So that's where we're picking up today. So from there, episode 6, we learned that pretty much everybody knew but Adebayo and of course Peacemaker. I don't even think throughout the rest of the series Peacemaker found out. He's always been Mern. So he's been left out
This
the
is
loop.
so true.
Yeah.
I'm like wondering now, did they ever clarify?
They never let him know. But say we thought, well, initially when what we left off on, it was just like on some Mern can't do anything because she's attached to Waller, right? So the episode kind of picks up to where she's just like talking to Harcourt figured it out, and I just want to call him Diebeard, especially after the latest conversation in the last episode.
Economists?
Economist. He knew, but he was kind of like avoiding the topic because he just wanted like that deniability, as if like he never actually heard it, you know. So
Yeah,
um
it's so funny because I think this series does it throughout all of it is like they'll make statements that sound very outlandish that you assume are more like metaphorical, but in reality it's like no, it's legitimately this like Project Butterfly, Project Starfish, like oh like in this they do it everywhere. And then this one it's like oh yeah, he puts his fingers in his ears anytime we
right,
talk about him being a butterfly, and then like down the episode it's like oh you mean he literally puts his fingers
right.
in his ears. Yeah, no, like, and it also started off with the cliffhanger. I mean, well, the last episode ended on a cliffhanger
Right,
because the way it was kind of like juxtaposed was to make us assume that Mern was attacking Adebayo after
right.
she found out, but really he
Mm-hmm.
was just trying to like explain the situation to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we see Adebayo's on the ground, Mern, and then goes into like listen, and then that's when we see Harcourt come in and explains. And I think she mentions it's in I forget what episode it would have been for us, but it's when there was an explosion, I think in the mansion, right? Of like um, of Goth's like people at that time.
Uh-huh.
The explosion like so close to Mern and he was perfectly fine is what made her realize oh
Oh,
this is a
true.
butterfly. Yeah.
In the golf mansion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even still, is that really enough that yes, he kind of withstood the explosion, but it wasn't like he was super close. He did seem initially at first glance, he looked like he was injured. I thought he was bleeding or whatnot. Am I wrong in saying that?
I think it's more so that he didn't get as injured as one would have assumed for something like that. And
Okay.
I think it just displays how smart Harcourt is and how like I think they were in that conversation they said that she confronted him with her suspicions and he came clean. So
Yeah.
maybe it was just enough for her to be suspicious to like have that conversation.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's probably better for her to be on my side than continue to be suspicious of me. Let me explain what's going on, and what his
Right.
part is in
Mm-hmm.
Project Butterfly and all of that. So yeah, that's how. And then it segues into the cow because they're like, yeah, we gotta destroy the cow, and she's like, the cow? It's like you didn't tell her about the cow. And then it goes into the kindergarten or like
Oh
the
right, right, right,
elementary
right.
school.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought honestly, I didn't know. Listen, I watched that one a few weeks ago. I thought the cow was brought up episode, well, at least in the next episode, but I may be mistaken because I'm looking at here's where my research is, okay? Because normally, like I told Grace, I didn't have any notes right now. So as of right now, I'm looking at images of episode 6 on IMDb, and the first image that
What a
pops up
cheat.
is the Peacemaker in the classroom showing off his guns, and this is like a bring. It's not a bring a parent to school day, is it?
Just like a relative. I think it's like bring a like someone to school day, or just I think it's meant to be like bring a parent to school day, but you can kind of just bring anyone in your family that has
Yeah,
cool jobs.
yeah.
And it's like the janitor from the hospital is like tells his daughter because I think the daughter was like someone's like a doctor or one of her friends is bringing someone that's super cool,
Right,
and he's like, I got you. I know a superhero. And then he brings in Peacemaker into this classroom of like unforgiving children. Like
right.
children can be mean.
Oh, definitely. And even with that being said, you know, children they have no filter, and it's like these slight little they don't know that they're jabs, but they're low key jabbing at him, and we already know that he's almost kind of broken. Like he's not like a superhero. He has his issues, and I think there was a point to where they bring up like his dad or something like that. Like you can tell like he's hurt in that conversation to where I was like this was cool, but maybe this wasn't ideal for him, especially now that because he's technically a fugitive. No matter what happens later in this episode, he is supposed to be in jail.
Mhm.
Like even before the Suicide Squad movie, he is supposed to be locked up, but of course these kids don't know that. He claims to be a superhero, but he's actually more so like an outlaw.
This entire scene is just too good. Like I think it starts off with he just finishes his little story about him defeating Kite Man, which is like the second reference to Kite Man in this show, I think. So I
Mhm.
was really surprised if you didn't see him pop up, and maybe season two will bring that. But I love how he just finished this like story. Obviously, he's kind of saying it like, "Oh, I've defeated the biggest villain that there ever was, Kite Man."
Right.
And if that wasn't sad enough, one of these kids is like, yeah, but wouldn't Kite Man have like fallen and like crashed
Right.
anyway because of the
Mhm.
weight of XXX? And the stare that he just gives the kid before he's like, no. It's just,
Right.
I would even say, like, I mean, these kids are old enough that they know their jabs.
Oh, for
They're,
sure.
I think they're so aware of it. And it's like not even low key. It's like very like the whole like classroom is just kind of like
We'll say
poking holes at his
I
story,
would say
and it's
like
so sad.
with us, maybe you can agree with this. Growing up, of course we may know that these are jabs, but like as we mature we know when to hold back. Like that's where like our maturity filter, comes
Yeah,
into play.
okay, yeah, absolutely. But it's like I feel so bad for him, and it's in this episode I realized I'm like, what reminds me so much, or what does Peacemaker remind me so much of? And I think it was in this scene. Are you an Office
I
fan?
am, I am.
He
The snip
reminds
snap
me
snip
so
snap
much of
snip
Michael.
snap.
Yes, no, but he reminds me so much of Michael Scott because Michael's kind of like a lovable asshole because he
I see
doesn't
that.
know that the stuff he does is like kind of douchey.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like there's an innocence to him because he just wants to be loved. That is Peacemaker, and I
Yeah.
think the reason it reminded me of that is because, like the classroom and the kids, and I just think like the Peacemaker's longing to just feel like a superhero. Like if
Right.
kids can't see me as a hero,
Mm-hmm.
it reminded me of like Scott's for Tots. It gave me like a very similar or familiar kind of cringe, and that's where I'm like, this is Michael Scott, and it
Mm-hmm.
adds even more down the episode. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I'll bring that back.
So we may be like, because this episode in particular, there's a lot of juicy stuff. Okay. I'd like to start with, like, say after the classroom trip, we see his dad to be released from prison,
Mm-hmm.
and from there, it's like his dad is just outlandish because his driver, his followers, like, what do you want to do, and he says something so outlandish. I was like, okay, all right, his dad is truly like an a-hole, and from there I think we go back to the trailer because Vigilante is there and they're chilling, but being that the cops have released the dad, they've put out an APB on
Mm-hmm.
Peacemaker because the Asian cop, she went above the fake boss to her relative judge to take in the Peacemaker. So Peacemaker and Vigilante are on the run, and I knew right then and there something was going to happen with this butterfly. I didn't know how or what, but no matter what, the butterfly was escaping in this situation. I get that it seemed like it wanted to make peace, but once the cops showed up, I was just like, all right, I know Peacemaker and Vigilante may come out, but something is going to happen, and it did. And here, you could take over from there.
I was just gonna say, like the moment that Peacemaker like pulled Grog out of Grog,
Goff.
Goff. This is not a gorilla. The moment that he took Goff out of his backpack in that little like container, we all knew he was gonna get out. We
Yeah.
all knew that he was
Mm-hmm.
gonna like inhabit some other bodies. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And like it really felt kind of like a tick tick boom kind of situation because it's like
Mm-hmm.
we just had a lot of screen time with him in the beginning of this episode, and then with the upcoming confrontation, that he was gonna get with like the police force, it was easy to kind of draw the line of like, damn it, this is what's gonna happen. I was scared that he was gonna go into Peacemaker. I mean, I'm not happy
Yeah.
it went to Sophia the cop, but
Right.
no, yeah, we saw that coming for sure.
I was
And then
honestly expecting once they fell out of the tree and the glass broke. I honestly thought it was gonna go super raunchy because of Diebeard slideshow as far as entering any situation, and I thought that Vigilante landed right on
Vigilante's butt, yeah.
top of it. So I was like, here we go. It's about to get really weird in this moment. So I'm actually
Same.
glad it didn't go that way.
I mean, it got pretty gory. And so I was honestly worried. I'm like, are we going to see something like this as we continue into the series? This episode really, I think, heightened the gore, but we're not there quite yet. We're not there quite yet. So yes, at the back at the trailer home, we see Peacemaker and we see Vigilante. Well, Vigilante kind of comes down a little bit after, but you can see like the relationship that Peacemaker kind of has made with this like butterfly, because
Mm-hmm.
the butterfly, I mean, obviously it's like, well, Peacemaker has his only source of food, so yes, you're gonna kind of be fond of the man who's feeding you. But as a default, like, and I think we talked about this last time, like, oh, it looks like there's kind of a little friendship going on, and it's like an episode in the last episode that we do kind of get a confirmation on that. But it's kind of sweet. And we have a conversation of Vigilante and Peacemaker where he's like, stop being all introspective. Like, the mind is he uses a phrase. Let me see if I wrote it in my notes. He's like, the mind is a bed of scorpions that were not meant to be like entered or something like that.
Oh, I missed that. That went over
Um,
my head.
no, so yeah, like well, throughout this entire series, we're seeing Peacemaker kind of take a deeper look into like not only his like vow, but like behind all that, and he's being haunted by like him having killed Flag, and we know this because we've seen so many different flashbacks to that moment.
Yeah.
Like I think it's very evident of him just dealing with all of that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really funny that they kind of bluntly stated it in this particular back and forth with him and Vigilante. And of course, Vigilante just being him is like the mind is not a place you want to like go into. You want to run away from
Yeah.
that. That scene was pretty good.
Would you say I want to backtrack when you're saying you're seeing this friendship kind of grow between Peacemaker and the Butterfly? Are you referring to like his little breakdown and he's laying on the ground and the butterfly kind of rolls the
All
jar
of it.
over to
All of
him?
it. All of it. We're having like little moments where you can see the butterfly just be like, like what you would see like a friendship kind of like he saw Peacemaker obviously like vulnerable. He rolls to them almost to give him like comfort, like a pet would,
Yeah.
you know? And I just think that I like that they were doing some of that in this particular episode, and even more so with like the peace sign,
Mhm.
right? That kind of
Mhm.
gives us a nice little runner with Vigilante and Peacemaker as we're trying to like see what that's all about, and
Oh,
Vigilante's
that
just
whole
not
thing with
getting
the
it.
vigilante thing, I was like, he said yes or
They're
no.
so
Like,
good.
come on, man.
What's your favorite color?
Right, right.
By the way, little side note, when he asked him, right, because he like modified his questions, like, oh, like, is your favorite color turquoise or teal or something like that?
Mhm.
And I thought it was so funny because teal is like the accent color in his suit, like in Vigilante's suit. So
Mhm.
like I am curious if he was wanting to know if that was his favorite color, because his favorite color is teal. You
What,
know what I
you
mean?
think
Like I want to
vigilante
know if
wanted to bond with him?
I think so, because he after he asked that question, he like I think Peacemaker is like, why the hell do you care what his favorite color is? And he's like, don't you wonder what like the mind of a alien species? And then Peacemaker's like, sure, sure. So I wonder because he's wearing his vigilante costume, and I'm like,
Mhm.
he has teal. I thought it was a coincidence. I didn't. It must not have been a coincidence. I think he wanted to know if his favorite color, the favorite colors were the same.
Maybe a stretch, Grace. I don't know, but
I don't
I'm
think
with it
so.
just because the way that you're saying it is it could be possible. You know, I'm not mad at that. But say we're here, they fall out of a tree, and the butterfly falls into the Asian cop. Now, I remember this Asian cop. She was talking about, well, not her, but now the butterfly. How entering a new body is like you have to learn how to smile again, and she does this weird smile. It's like I didn't think how creepy a smile could be, but that was super creepy.
You must never have seen it.
It the with the clown. I don't even let. Well, I think
Yeah.
of that. Of course, that is yes a creepy way to smile, and he can naturally do that because I've seen him in like in interviews on television shows. But aside from that, I'm just talking about how she like kind of slowly like formed a weird smile. You know, it wasn't really
No,
genuine.
yeah.
It was just something
No,
that like to appease her partner. You know.
no, it's like the funniest thing because I think it was genuine because right before she made that, and this is like towards the end of the episode, but it was so we're kind of jumping around, but I think it was genuine because like she's turning to, or Goth is walking away, and before she leaves, she turns around to like the other cop and it's like, she was very fond of you, Sophie, and they have like a little warm moment, and then he's just like, enjoy it, and then she tries to smile, and then that's where that happens. So I think it's
Right.
even funnier because I think it was meant to come from a genuine place of like, you're all about to be taken over, so enjoy this moment, and I mean that truly. But I
So
gotta
the
get things
smile was more
done.
so for her. You're saying that the butterfly was
No,
actually
like
smiling as opposed to smiling for the partner.
I'm just saying, like I think it was a genuine smile of like to try to like elicit warmth or just like understanding or something, and it just became super creepy because of the fact that she doesn't know how to mechanically figure out the smile, and I think
Right.
that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of backtracking a little bit back to like the warrant and the arrests and all of that. Can I just say, like, it frustrated me watching this to believe that these detectives didn't think to look on the roof. They just took way too long to find Chris. Like, it's a small trailer. You didn't think to surround it. Like, there's very minimal exit points. I'm just saying.
But
Like, the
but
execution
them
was
being
not
there is
good.
a stretch just for the fact that how would they know that he's there? They know he's on the loose, but they're just like, oh, he's at the trailer. He could have been anywhere with the 11th Street kids, but it was like they were tracking him somehow, even though they weren't. So I just thought it to be coincidental that they show up where he actually is, or maybe it's just stupid on his part to hide out at his
Where people
house.
know to find him.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's so valid. No, no, that's totally valid. But like being that they still went there, but with like a sufficient you know, amount of police officers, you would think they'd all like surround versus all like line up at the front of the door. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But I see the point you're making. That's totally true. That's
Yeah.
absolutely true.
So the the sheriff, quote unquote sheriff, aka Golf's old partner, is there, and he's kind of covering up, helping them escape. But at the end of the day, Golf already kind of knew. She's like, oh, I think he's working with them, and she of course is just putting the logic together, being that this person. Do you know his name? This creepo guy.
No, the sheriff, I think if anything, Goff knowing about Task Force Butterfly, seeing this sheriff acting not so by the book is a red flag of like he's probably working with them, you know?
But I don't believe he does know. I just believe that Waller sent him over to help keep things together, so he replaced whatever sheriff that was there, but I don't think he knew what Project Butterfly was. He was just on assignment to make sure that the team doesn't get caught up in anything. If that,
Oh, no, no,
yeah.
no. What I mean is, Goff, like Goff, I think marked the sheriff as someone who's probably working with the
Right,
Project
right,
Butterfly because
exactly.
he is obviously he meaning, or in this case, she. See, they need to keep it consistent in
Right.
terms of the. I'm like, okay,
While I was talking, I was
Goff
like,
now and
she
Sophie, so she, yeah. So she, as in like now Goff being in Sophie's body. So like Sophie's Goff hybrid is aware of this sheriff because it's like, okay, this person's acting very out of the ordinary for a sheriff, right? Sheriff not really going by the book.
right,
Being that
right,
Goff is aware of Project Butterfly, it's like, okay, he's probably working for them, right? Because I think when Sophie makes that statement, or Goff, the partner is like working for who, right? Because like they don't know, they never
right,
knew about Project Butterfly. Like that was the whole point, yeah, of like having put that sheriff in place is to kind of keep the police force in check.
right.
But I don't know if it was directly Waller who had put that sheriff in charge. I think it was Mern, right? I'm pretty sure it was Mern.
When they had the conversation in the hotel room, I thought Waller was mentioned. It's like, yes, they knew each other. Mern and this person had like a history of working together, but I thought I understood it to where, um, I mean, you may be right. Mern just may have called in a favor, and somehow the guy took over. But for some reason, I thought Waller was involved. That kind of helped put him into place at the top of this police department.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's like Mern used the resources that Waller kind of provided Project Butterflies in
Right.
order to, do their work. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure like in that regard, Waller was obviously involved. But I do think it's Mern because like I had a big question rewatching this particular episode. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Because this guy is like a straight up like psychopath,
Oh
right?
yeah,
This
definitely.
episode displayed we always knew he was like a creeper and it was really weird, but this episode was like to a different degree. And I just got like, who the hell is he? Like they never describe him, but I think it's more so just showing because I think it was Mern, as in like the actual person Mern, like had a connection with this psychopathic
Yeah,
person.
and that's what I would say.
And
I would say, if
yeah,
anything, him and Mern were basically a tag team. They're basically the
That's what I
same
feel. Yes.
person, but now since the butterflies in Mern, he's no longer like that. So I'm just imagining this person to be exactly what Mern used to be, being that Mern said he used to do a
Yes.
lot of bad stuff.
Yes, that's what I was trying to word so poorly. So thank you. Absolutely. So, kind of moving forward with this episode. Well, what else did we get? Oh, we got this really good scene with Vigilante and Peacemaker. By the way, this entire series has like the funniest car ride scenes. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like so much happens in the car. This is the scene that like put the cherry on top for me of Peacemaker basically being like Michael Scott and Vigilante is like Dwight. Because Dwight loves Michael.
Uh huh.
Michael likes to be adored, but for some reason doesn't find the like validation from being adored by Dwight in the same way that Peacemaker doesn't get that same like Peacemaker wants to be like loved and validated by other people, but when like Vigilante is the one that's hyping him up, he's like, your opinion means nothing to
Oh
me.
damn,
And
yeah,
I feel
that's
like it's
true. That is
I feel
very
it's like the
true. Yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
such the same dynamic. And so I thought this was like when I was watching it, I'm like, it is. It's basically Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically what it is.
Um, the only I'd like say right now, I don't know where my mind went, just because we were just recently last week talking about like the brotherhood of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but here it's not like the same. You know, it's like yeah, they're quote unquote besties, more so besties in Vigilante's eyes, not necessarily in Peacemaker's eyes, but like all Vigilante wants to do is hype up his man, and Peacemaker is he's like I hear you, but no, not really, you know. And I get it. That is kind of parallel with Michael and Dwight. So look at you,
Yes, thank
piecing
you. I'm
things
so happy.
together,
I'm a
you
big
know.
Office fan. So once it clicked, I'm like, oh my God, that's all I see now. That's all I see. But at the end of the day, just like how Dwight is like a big part of Michael's life, whether he likes to admit it or not, Vigilante is like up there in Peacemakers. Like I
Oh,
think it's in the
definitely.
last episode, he's like, don't tell Vigilante, but you're my second best friend next to Eagly, and he
Right.
he says that to Adebayo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that means that Vigilante's like number three on that list.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's it's always the fun banter between those two. I love that scene.
So there was a quick cut before we come back to the sheriff's office, because that's like the major scene. But it goes to back to the White Dragon's lair. I'm gonna call it a lair because it's not a house. It's a little bit of everything. But from there, we see him actually put on the I don't want to say uniform. Is it a uniform? Is it a costume?
The suit.
He
I
puts
would just
on the
say the
suit.
suit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he's fully back in being the White Dragon, and right now his main mission is to take his son out. You know, and I think they touched on it a little bit, but this they didn't really go dive into it until episode 7 or 8. But um, this whole situation between Peacemaker, his brother, and his dad, it's I don't want to say complex, but it's weird, you know. And the reason why I don't want to say complex just because it came down to the point to where yes, we can just say his dad is a super racist bigot, you know. It comes to the point to where he is pretty much humiliating his son in any way, shape, or form, you know. And in that relationship, I get that that's his dad, but if